call the meeting to order, that's what the clock says. So, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from October 10th, 2016.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the October 10th, 2016 minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 25th, 2016.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from October 25th, 2016, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November 2nd, 2016. That was a special meeting.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the November 2nd, 2016 minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So then, in the interest of letting a lot of these people go home and enjoy their evenings, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and take the agenda out of order.
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion as to why? Okay. All those in favor of suspending the rules to take the agenda out of order signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So what we're going to do is we're going to move correspondence, number 7, up to the next item on the agenda. And that is a letter from, or a letter to Dolores Kuhn from the State Department of Environmental Conservation, or to the State Department of Conservation, dated October 28, 2014, and I'm going to read this letter just so that it becomes a matter of record. It says, Dear Ms. Kuhn, it has come to our attention that a 2.4 acre site improved with a primary residence belonging to Kalen Lot and located behind the Supervisory Union office building on Vermont Route 30 in Townsend has no wastewater system. There are 2 outhouses on the property, neither of which is old enough to be grandfathered. The newer being dug, constructed when the first became full. This is of concern due to the location on the Mill Brook near the confluence with the West River. Additionally, there's no well on the property. Under the terms of the wastewater system and potable water supply permit dated November 29, 2011, copy enclosed, this parcel, Lot 4B, was to remain undeveloped. At that time, Kalen Lot, grandson of the property owners, Norman and Junellen Lot, was constructing his residence on that parcel. It was transferred to Kalen Lot on August 28, 2012. The Board of Listers is aware of the situation, but has done nothing due to a former longtime member, Howard Lot, being Kalen's uncle, and a current member, Stephen Lot, Kalen's father. Therefore, we are bringing this groundwater pollution situation to your attention for hopeful remediation. And it is not signed, but it is typed in. Thank you, Craig K. Hunt, Administrative Assistant, Townshend Selectboard. Now, I just want to state right here, right now, for the record, did not originate from this board. This is not ours. I'm not sure where it came from. Considering they're referencing the listers, perhaps one of the listers would like to address the letter itself.
We weren't aware of any of this until you brought it to our attention the other day.
Okay, so what we basically have here is a situation where somebody in this town hall, an elected official or some employee, in fact, did forge a letter, essentially from the select board, to the Department of Environmental Conservation complaining about this particular
individual in this property.
and then the property, and as such created a lot of difficulties for the young man that was involved. In fact, his project was stopped and now can only be used as a camp. So I would like to take this opportunity, since we don't know for absolute 100% certain where this letter originated.
It did not originate from me.
It is definitely not signed by
It's-
Mr. Hunt.
Yeah, it's not mine. It's
It
not
did
mine.
not originate from the current.
No one in our office had any knowledge of the situation, and we certainly had nothing to do with writing the letter.
The entire office or
All,
just you?
all of us.
You
All-
three?
All three of us.
What about your office at that point in time was 5 members?
Well,
And you can't speak to the
I
other 2.
wouldn't say, what the other 2 members,
But that's my point. You could say that you 3 did not.
right,
But we don't know for certain what might have originated from
In
other
all
individuals.
likelihood, one of the other 5 members
Right.
would not have written that letter.
Yes, given the conflict. But anyway, at this point in time, I'd just like to express the select board's regrets to the Lot family for the difficulties this letter has caused them. It was unfair, it was unprofessional, it was certainly not something that any elected official or employee of the town of Townshend should have ever done, particularly in the name of the select board, which is what they've done by signing Craig's name. And again, I just really regret that the Lot family had to deal with this at a time that their lives were full of other issues, and still are. So unless the listers have something else to say to the effect, I deeply regret it. I know the board does, I know Craig does, he's the one that's taking the brunt of this, and hopefully it will never happen again. All right? Thank you all.
Have a good evening.
Okay, so then we're going to move number 6 up to the front. You just don't know how to count. 7 comes before 6, and 6 comes before 3.
You rearrange the order, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so we're going to let Miss Heidi Russ speak to the Act 46 discussion that's currently happening.
Okay, so I asked to come to the select board just because I think it's a good thing to do, in terms of the fact that we have a study committee that's meeting right now that involves Townshend. This particular committee involves Wyndham and Jamaica, as well as Newfane and Brookline. And I'm sure some of you know a little bit of background, but just to reiterate it, Act 46 is a state law in which they're, I want to say encouraging, but sort of mandating that towns look into unifying a district larger than the current town. Actually, it's a minimum of 4 towns to create their own new district board, and they are giving us a deadline of July 1st. So what the law says is if by July 1st, the towns involved do not pass articles and a creation of a new district, then the state will make that decision for us on how it's going to look and how it's going to be. There are some penalties for our schools if we don't pass something, such as our small schools grant, which is around $80,000, will be taken away from us, which would be a huge hit to us. On top of them then telling us what towns we're going to be within a district, a new unified district. So because of this, a study committee was formed, and there are a total of 15 members right now from all these different towns, in discussions about what articles would look like. Our goal is to have, by the end of the year, articles sent to the state that they can look at and either approve or send back for revisions. A goal being that by town meeting, there would be something to vote on and to see whether the towns agree with the articles and whether they would move forward in this plan for a unified district. So, yes, Craig.
If the towns don't approve, does the state intervene and cop something together?
After July 1st.
After
the
July
state,
1st,
and it
okay.
wouldn't go into effect immediately. Either way, I think 2019, the fiscal year 2019, is when, whether we choose and we vote yes, or whether the state tells us, is the year that it goes into effect.
So we can either do it voluntarily or it will be done for us.
Right, and will be done for us without the money involved if we do it voluntarily, mandated voluntarily. There is tax incentives to do it in terms of a 4-year tax incentive. It's not huge, but it's 8 cents off the tax rate the first year, and it goes down incrementally for 4 years. Right now, I can say that Townsend is not quite the highest per pupil cost in this grouping of towns, but it is the second to highest. So for Townsend, it's not a horrible thing. I think there's some good things to come from it, being that special ed costs in Townsend have been very high. In the last couple of years, we've taken a huge hit on our school budgets, and those kind of expenses would then be shared, I would expect, between the whole group, because we're looking at one board of 11 people that is made up, depending on population, as I'm sure you can imagine, like the Leland and Gray board. And all of the money from the state would come into one pot, and all the expenses of all those schools would be coming from that pot. We're not talking about closing any schools. We're not talking about creating a new school. We're at this point talking about keeping things as they are, hoping that there will be more sharing going on. There is the discussion of school choice going on that would be within the schools involved. So it would allow families to make choices of sending their kids to a different, between Newfane, Brookline, well, New Brook, Townsend, Wyndham, and Jamaica, if we all stayed within this group. I think the only other thing to mention, and then you can ask questions if you want, if you have any questions, is if we get to a vote and we go to a vote, as long as 4 of the 5 towns vote yes, we move forward. The only exception to that would be Brookline and Newfane, because they share the school. So if one of those towns voted no, it would mean 2 towns vote no, and it would not move forward. So, I mean, I'd love to hear any of your thoughts. Chris and I are both on this committee. We're trying to do the best we can because we care about our school, we care about our town, but we really care about the kids getting educated, and we all feel like our back is against the wall. And I think this is really hard for all the towns because nobody likes to be in this position. So, anybody have any questions or thoughts? Yes, Kathy.
You knew this was coming.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Kathy has a thought.
Just one. Again, from my time as chairman of the school board, we've looked at this repeatedly, and I will say the state has threatened Townsend Elementary School with the loss of the small school grants for the last 10 years
Yes,
to try to make us bend to their will.
that is true.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's a useless threat. I don't really, they beat that horse to death, and I'm not too worried about that particular piece. I will say that my concerns remain the same as they did when I was chairman of the board with combining the schools, particularly in this particular case as a K-12, actually pre-K-12 district. And that is putting the money into one pot to support 5 buildings?
4 buildings.
4 buildings, yeah, okay. I sat there and watched money move within the supervisory union that would come into the supervisory union for all the schools at that particular time, and see it moved into the building next door. And I have real serious concerns that the elementary school and the younger children in those elementary grades will not receive their fair share of the funding, and that their programs will in fact remain intact so that their education continues to be at least at the level it is. I've seen it for too long move next door at the expense of those little kids. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel.
Kathy, it is just the elementary schools, it does not include Leland and Gray.
You're not doing a K-12?
It is a K-12, but
Pre-K-12.
they're still.
They're gonna have their
K-12.
own board
Right, they'll have their
with
own
their own
board.
pot.
My
Right.
concern, having been a school board
Just so-
member in part under her chairmanship, is the loss of local control of the school board. You merge a school board, you lose, not that local control is what it used to be
Elementaries
anyway.
together, but not under the high school board.
Right,
That is correct. So the board for the high school
remains.
It remains separate. The schools have to utilize Leland and Gray as their high school.
Right.
So we can't go into it with a school that doesn't have Leland and Gray as their high school. So that's how they're putting the wording of pre-K through 12th grade. But this board and this unification will only
Only the
manage the
elementaries.
elementary schools.
So you do have a mechanism in place to protect the younger kids?
It is, yes, the money will be separate.
Okay, so
Yes.
is it so, well, okay.
And so,
And
just,
you will have an 11-member board in this combined district,
yes,
a quorum of which, a positive quorum of which would be 6, and Townsend may not vote in the affirmative, but still, again, you lose that aspect.
so
of
let me
local
just say
control.
one thing, there will be 2 at-large members of the 11. So depending on how towns feel, for instance, Wyndham doesn't like the fact that they just have 1 member on an 11-member board, which is
Mhm.
understandable. They could campaign heavily to try to get 1 or 2 other seats.
Same thing for
From what I
Townsend.
understand, we'll have to do Australian ballot for this particular board.
Mhm.
So there is a ability, if a town is very concerned, to really try to put more members of their town on it. Obviously, Townsend's the second largest of the towns involved. And, yes, we all hate losing local control.
It's virtually gone anyway. I mean, I'm romanticizing about
Yes,
the
I
day
know.
one.
I feel like in a lot of ways, the local control we're trying to hold on to right now is writing the articles and having a say over how situations will be dealt with,
Subject to
rather
state
than
approval.
having this, well, that is true, but I'd rather write them than have the state write them. So,
So, just to clarify,
Yeah.
this money thing still got me confused.
yeah,
So we're still going to be, as a town, voting for a budget
A
from
separate-
Leland and Gray,
that is correct.
and then turning around and voting for whatever this new district looks like for the elementary schools.
that is correct.
And we would have to do the 2 Australian ballots?
That is
Would it
correct.
be on the same day as Leland and Gray? Do we know?
That is something we would discuss. I would like to think that it would be done that way, because if everybody is coming together, that is not a detail we've decided yet.
I could guarantee you that the town clerks are gonna be up in arms if they have to run a second.
Annual
It
meeting.
makes sense, because people are coming from all over the towns to vote here, so it would make sense to do both at the same night, and I would certainly
But it
suggest
would be a
that.
separate, it would be a district annual meeting as opposed to
That's right,
a Townsend and a Brookline.
that's right.
Newbrook and a-
You would then not have a school portion to town meeting
Right.
day.
Okay, so it wouldn't be multiple votes.
Right,
That's
but
So
right.
that's
even,
the next question was, well, what if one town votes it down type of thing, that would just.
It would be
chaotic.
all done at one time,
Okay.
yes, so.
But in order to attend, in order to attend that meeting, people from Wyndham would have to come to whatever the hall at Leland and Gray, or we'd
That's
all go to
correct.
Newbrook or something else.
That is
And that
correct.
becomes less participatory.
So then but my point is more the Australian ballot piece and the fact that if they're not on the same day as the Leland and Gray budget vote, if the vote for the elementary school
I-
district is not that same day, you're going to have to set the polls up twice.
Right, and I don't think that's something that we would even consider, I wouldn't think. But right now, for the Leland and Gray budget, isn't it by town, they go to their individual towns?
Yes,
to
they
vote?
go,
So
but
we
it's like-
wouldn't be calling people down as far as to vote in one place.
No, but the annual
Okay.
meeting would be in one place, rather
That's
than, again, have parents show up with their kids at town meeting here to
Yes.
listen to the elementary school annual report.
Correct.
That annual report would be merged into a district annual report held at an annual meeting at one of the larger halls, probably Newbrook
Right,
or
it has-
Leland and Gray.
It has been suggested that we could even have it each year in a different location, to make it feel fair for all the towns. I'm sure we'd all love to schlep to Wyndham for that.
Yes.
But,
March. We can run shuttle buses.
yeah,
We'll
But-
put some salt on it.
Okay, yeah, we can. Okay, I'm still not really
It-
clear
it's-
on the.
well, and this is why it's hard for any of us to really wrap our brains around, and I want to encourage people, and I hope that you all would encourage people to start either watching the televised meetings that we have, which are pretty much every other week right now. They're on BCTV, or coming to our meetings. We're trying to post them everywhere. We have a blog. We have a flyer that's out there. The blog is listed in there. I know Craig put the blog out for me a little bit.
Right.
You know, we want community input, because essentially this is gonna come to the towns for voting, and if it gets a no vote in the end, then we're kind of all stuck, so,
Okay, then let's go to town meeting then. Let's move forward to town meeting.
okay.
Your articles are passed, the state says yes, you can go forward. Are you going to be holding is it going to be during the school portion of the budget and it's a voice floor vote? Or are we actually talking about an Australian ballot for this?
You know, that's a good question, or we haven't discussed that.
Maybe you could
You have
write
any
that down so
suggestions?
we can
Yes.
write it down so we can bring it.
Well, I mean, we could certainly always call for paper ballot from the floor, but that just makes it more strung out and drawn out. But town meeting day is a difficult day to stack elections onto, as we found out with the presidential primary 2 years ago, or last year, whatever year it was, I don't know what year it was. Anyway, it's difficult to have 2 or 3 people in 4 places. So yes, that is a concern, because all the towns are going to be in the same boat. The clerks are all busy with their minutes for the meeting, and don't have time to deal with the polls. So yes, that is a consideration, number one. And I still would like, before you speak to the populace or to the town as a whole, I still would like some clarification on how the budgetary piece for the new district would work. You know, is there a possibility we could set up the polls and vote to have two separate ballots, one for the elementary portion, one for the high school portion, and it's done in one day. The voters come out to their town once. You know, as opposed to having 2 separate times, having the Leland Gray, because that's set by statute, as I recall, the first Tuesday.
Okay, when they have to vote on the Leland Gray budget.
So that would be an article that we want to make sure that we talk about.
Yes, at least try to figure out where you want to go.
State revenues will be shared amongst 4 different schools depending on their needs. I assume that debts will be shared.
That is true.
And inheritance.
So if somebody gets into a capital improvement project or floats a bond, everybody's gonna be,
We'll all be paying for the roof in Jamaica,
okay,
yep,
yeah, no, no.
or the new heating system in Townsend, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
just
no.
throwing out that. That is true, and Townsend has no debt. So that is, and some of that was voiced at the last meeting about how everybody's coming with different debts and different assets. But
Is
I'm
there-
not sure how you can equalize that out, because a school district doesn't have money to bring to the table
Right.
with their debt to make it, to equalize it. So, I mean, it's definitely everybody at the table that is in this committee is thinking about those
The
things.
articles you're writing up, are they, I don't mean to, the articles you're writing up, are they like articles of incorporation? Are you putting in an escape clause? How does a town get out 5 years from now?
A town's, well, that's gonna come down to some statutes, I'm assuming, and the law, because the law is put, if I understand this correctly, and this has been a process for me to learn, there's laws in effect now as to how to get out of a district, right?
Right.
And those will then become applicable
Applicable
to
to
the
any new formation
That's
of
right,
district.
that's right.
So in other words, to go back to Leland and Gray, to get out of the Leland Gray district, all the towns have to vote to let you out.
That is correct.
So we're going to create the same type of a situation with the elementary school.
That is going to be based on statute, not necessarily in our articles. Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else?
There's a lot not to like about this.
But there are some things to
I was
like
just gonna
about
say
this.
that. There are
And I
some
think we have to
positive things.
remember that.
Mhm.
There are some positive things. I'd like to say that, you know, in these towns, over the years, I've heard people not like things about Townsend, but I've heard people not like things about other schools. Giving families an opportunity to pick a school based on what they think fits them is a nice thing.
Mhm.
There are a lot of homeschool families around our towns in which they've decided to homeschool based on not liking the school that they have to send their kids to.
That
That's
could be,
revenue.
That could be authorized by a stroke of a pen without creating a monkey's barrel's worth of
People have been talking about it for
school choice
years,
or
Craig,
something. School
but
choice
nobody is
something-
passing it.
Well,
Nobody really likes school choice because it impacts the schools and money. But if you're all under one pot, it's not gonna impact it. And if we have homeschool families that would then choose a different school, that's money that's not actually going anywhere right now. So, not that it's a huge pot of money, but it's some revenue. So,
What happens, I'm sorry,
That's
what
okay.
happens, for instance, when nobody wants to go to one school, but everybody wants to go to another. Next thing you know, you're gonna have kids that should just go to Townshend, so to speak, could be going all over the
You're gonna be
place.
busing.
And, you know, it's like, well, wait a minute, why should the person that's in Townsend have to move somewhere, and likewise anywhere else?
That's in one of the articles that, when we talk about school choices, the kids in the town
Get to go to their town school.
But there are transportation obligations. in
You don't
both
have
towns.
transportation.
No, we do not, do we?
And that is definitely something that we are dealing with
But
in
it still
our.
comes, but it still adds to the cost, which people are gonna pick up. That
What
if you
adds to
need
the cost?
Busing kids from Townsend
But
to
you're
Jamaica.
not- you don't
or to-
have
I'm
to-
not
bus.
saying that that's going to happen.
No,
So, I mean, these are concerns to everybody on that committee as well. We don't want to increase the cost of doing any business in our school. We want to maintain what we have in our schools. If kids all chose to go somewhere else, we have discussed processes for a school to close. We haven't decided on it. Most likely, we're putting it in the town's hands when it comes to school closing. So if in fact a lot of kids start coming somewhere else, let's just use Jamaica for instance. They have, I don't know, 50 kids or whatever. If for some reason they chose all the other schools and there wasn't much left in Jamaica, the Jamaica town could then vote to close that school because it's an expense, but it's not being utilized. Yes,
On that same note,
yes.
did you ever get an answer to the building question? As to ownership of the building if in fact it was closed?
So that's something we've also been talking about, and the articles are in no way completed, so I just want to say that. Discussion has been that the town would have the choice to buy it for $1 or
But
essentially.
that wasn't not the wall they hit the last time. With the red, they hit the wall that in fact, because there was state money for building, for the addition on the back of that building.
it would be
that money-
owed.
It
It would be owed.
It would be owed back to the state of Vermont. It could not
did
be
have-
We did have this discussion because Brookline had this exact thing happen, and it was decided, and it has been changed up in the legislature, that because of what's happening, no money will have to be returned to
Okay.
the state.
So they
That has
did
already
address
been
that.
discussed about. Brookline, I thanked them at the last meeting for sort of paving the way for this, because they hit that when they collaborated.
did?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so that, 'cause that was a big.
Yep, they were supposedly owing 240,000 or something, and they didn't have to pay a dime.
We would
and-
owe more than that.
Yeah, we don't. it's-
Well, yes,
it was a
but so
million is what it
Emily
was.
Long and Carolyn Partridge, who are both members of this committee, talked about what happened up in the legislature, and it's
It's
not
okay.
gonna affect anybody.
That's nice to know. Anybody else, any questions?
Appreciate your service to this. I
Yeah,
mean, this has
thank
been
you
going
for-
on forever between Red and
And we weren't a part of the red. I was on a committee way back when we looked at Brookline way back. And, you know, I certainly understand a lot of people's fears and a lot of people's concerns, but we're both open to comments and, you know, I would like to encourage you and anybody else that you come across to talk to us, because the only way to really create articles that will be accepted is to get feedback. And, you know, we are trying to wrap up this article thing because being November 10th, and we probably will get a draft out to the state soon because they're gonna have feedback, we know that. They're gonna have something
well,
to
the
say.
only way you can address concerns is to know what the concerns are.
Exactly.
Right, so we just want people to hear, we just want people to pay attention. We don't want people to be surprised or blindsided if this comes to a vote by town meeting. And we will hold, you know, public
Information
meetings,
meetings.
yes, thank you, prior to that, but, you know.
Yeah, and again, the whole question about, and for the whole committee, would be whether or not this is something that their individual towns will handle during their school portion of their town
Yes.
meeting, or whether in fact this will require some kind of an Australian vote within the town so that it can be documented what the actual tally numbers were.
We have our next meeting next Wednesday, so we'll bring those up and try to get them,
Absolutely.
we'll try to bring them up, but when we do get an answer, we'll certainly
Okay,
send them
that'd be
forward to
great,
you.
because I mean, that will change, it'll change the dynamics of town meeting, because I believe the school goes, we just looked this up, your school meeting starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, so it's going to take that day and really rearrange how town meeting goes. So
Well, and I think there's gonna be confusion, because we're gonna be, if we move forward with the vote, which was what we're hoping, you'll be voting the current school board, because this will continue, but we'll be voting in another board that will start shaping this unified district. So that will be confusing, because I have found this confusing as we've been talking about it the last two meetings.
You mentioned July 1st as a deadline. What's the timeline for?
Incorporating?
Yeah, is it another year?
2019.
2019.
Yeah, so we'll start the FY 2018 next
Yeah,
September.
so there's a 2-3 year transition.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Just as a reminder, I know you got articles to write, get into the state, get them approved, figure out your warning and all of that. We're about 45 days from printing a town report, maybe, if that's gonna happen. You can always do a supplement, you can always do your own.
Might be wise this
I'm
year.
not involved in this, I'm just saying, we're at a month and a half. It goes
Yeah.
out early, I mean, it goes to printer usually 15th, 16th, 18th of January at the
January, right?
latest, yeah. So, and the holidays are coming, so there's a time, there's a time crunch here.
You know, take 15 people from 5 different towns.
Yep,
and-
that's how we make them all agree.
Yeah.
Just listen.
Yeah, if you're bored some night, watch one of the meetings.
And thanks for the thankless job.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Thank you for having us.
For which you'll be heavily criticized, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
I'm sure. We're just trying to do the best we can do, and, yeah.
Appreciate it.
So, thank you for letting us
Thank
come
you.
and talk, and,
Sure.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay, I'm not sure where to go now. I guess I go back to,
It's a non-debatable motion.
We go to 12.
let's go to, back up to additions and deletions. I need to add under old business, I'd like to add a statement about the state portion of our FEMA money for East Hill. Is there any other additions or deletions? Okay. Then moving on, we don't seem to have a highway foreman again,
Yeah, no.
so I'm not sure. We still have 2 grants open. I'm not sure what we're doing on either the Plum Road Bank Stabilization or the Network Inventory Grant, so we'll just let those go by for now. Again, yes?
I did request a number for network inventory costs,
Okay,
which is something we don't have, so.
well, again,
After our discussion, I did request, but I don't have it yet.
yeah,
I did actually request a hard fixed.
well,
and,
Kurt was instructed to get that anyway, and we
I know,
still don't have
I'm-
that, so.
Yeah, so I'm trying to follow up on it, but.
Okay. Law enforcement, there was
No.
nothing on that. Town clerk, you all have counter money. Treasurer, Joe had a fire meeting tonight, so he left the paper with me. And we currently have in the bank a balance of $1,077,836. That's all the information I have for the treasurer. So, warrants, wherever the devil they went.
Make a motion to approve check warrant report number 1 for payroll in the amount of $9,388.15.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant number 1 in the amount of $9,388.15 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve warrant number 2 for payroll taxes in the amount of $3,619.40.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant number 2 payroll taxes in the amount of $3,619.40 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve check warrant report number 3 out of the general fund in the amount of $14,625.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I just want to note that this is the FY17 social services.
Social services costs.
So if there's no other discussion, then all those in favor of approving warrant number 3 for the general fund in the amount of $14,625 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve check warrant report number 4 out of the general fund in the amount of $4,755.97.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant number 4 from the general fund in the amount of $4,755.97 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve check warrant report number 5 in the amount of, out of the general fund, in the amount of $451.50.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant number 5 from the general fund in the amount of $451.50 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve check warrant report number 6 out of the highway fund in the amount of $12,018.29.
Second.
29 cents, was it?
29 cents.
Okay. Any discussion? I just want to note that this is salt, sand, and culverts, just so you all know what we're buying.
Make a motion to.
We haven't voted on it, dear heart.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Make a motion to approve check warrant report number 7 in the, out of the town equipment fund in the amount of $1,816.38.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying equipment warrant number 7 in the amount of $1,816.38 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Okay, so there's the warrants. We've done that. We've done correspondence. So we are down to old business in East Hill. And I just want to make note of the fact that Craig finally filed the paperwork for the state portion of the FEMA money for East Hill. This was something that was brought to the bookkeeper's attention last year and has not gotten done. And it was filed, I believe, the beginning of this week.
End of last week, actually, and,
Oh, okay.
well, yeah.
So we should have about another $35,000 coming in on the state portion of that.
Or a summons.
Okay, moving on. I don't want to do this.
There is no town report update of which I am aware. I continue to invite any questions or concerns from the committee and try to address them as best I can, but they haven't risen to the board level yet, and I don't have anything for you on that.
Okay, then let's move to the audit update and take those backwards. You all had in your box a copy of a letter from Solomon McCoy, basically stating that they
That's today's letter, excuse me.
yes, that they are suspending the audit and will not be finishing it. We did find out that in fact there is a bill coming for $7,500 for the work that was done for the 3 days that there was an auditor here. And that we are going to get nothing from that expense other than the recommendation that in fact we hire an outside firm, which we have received a recommendation for. Yeah, well, so basically, they did in fact recommend P-Check out of Brattleboro, who expressed interest in sending somebody up here to help put the books into order.
Potentially, we've yet to discuss that.
We have yet to make contact with P-Check to actually verify that. But I need to know where we're going. And I don't know if this is something at this point in time we want to do in an open session, or is this something that we would like to do in an executive session in the form of an evaluation?
I would think executive session.
Is that what your choice is?
Yeah.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to move into executive session under 1 VSA 313A3 to discuss an employee evaluation. All of-
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving that motion to move into executive signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I'm
So,
sorry, who moved that? You can move that? Oh, okay. And, let's make it 7:22 or something.
okay,
I'm
so
sorry, 6:42. And
I have no idea how long this is going to take. At 7:04, and as a resolution to the executive, is there a motion to put forward?
Yes, I make a motion to have Elaine Hill receive additional numeric training and any other training necessary to complete her tasks
For FY
for FY
16. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of allowing Elaine Hill to contact NIMRIC to get some additional training to close out and clean up the books from FY 16, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. So on the heels of that,
I make a motion to pursue P-Check's interest in if so, hiring them to clean up our accounting books
for FY 17.
for FY 17.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of contacting P-Check and Company to help straighten out the financial records?
assist as a CPA for FY 17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that works. All those in favor of that signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, the motion passes. So we will, I believe you already put a call in to P-Check and Company? So we will follow that up, and if I need to, I can certainly use my contact there to see if we can't get some answers as to who it might be that would be working up here and how much that cost would be and when they would be available to do.
There are things to discuss obviously in advance.
Okay, so then, on the heels of that, do we want to go back and take a look at the budget, knowing where we are?
Let me just
We don't have really clean numbers to work from.
All right, well, Rob has his, Kyle has not picked up his. But anyway, you have a comparative budget, which is all blank lines for next year, and you have the, basically the established budget for this year in that packet. Anybody who needs an updated one, it hasn't changed, but I can print out a copy of this one. And it's worth just, probably nothing's gonna happen tonight, but it's certainly worth looking through and familiarizing yourself with. You want a copy, Rob, just to look at? You get yours or something?
All right.
Okay.
They'll change 5 or 6 times before we get the real piece.
Well, there are no numbers in there yet, so
It's just all.
what we don't have right now is current budget status to know what has happened in the first 6 months, 5 months of the 4 months of this year.
This is very important. This stays clipped to the front of my folder
Yeah.
forever, yeah. We'll have that discussion another time.
That's a little important piece of information.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is never to be lost.
Yeah.
But when you look at the different pieces, we don't have a current budget status that is accurate enough to be able to anticipate what our costs are
Right.
and then getting here it is. We're starting to get information rolling in as to increases for Wyndham Regional, Wyndham Solid Waste,
Social services.
New Brook Fire.
The LCT, there are a couple other ones, you know, to pass it. Obviously, you just increase the budget for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yep.
The insurance, the health insurance portion of the towns.
So there are some numbers that we've already seen that we can plug in that we know are going to be accurate.
So far,
For
nothing's
next year.
gone down.
No, but one stayed the same.
One did stay the same. One big one stayed the same. Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so it'd be nice.
Very important.
I don't know, which, your pleasure, would you like to, we can't push this off too long, because we have to get a budget.
I would just say that if you have a little time at home, it really only takes a half an hour to look through it and just flag anything that you want to discuss at the table. And I'm not gonna say that we'll do, level funding across the board, but by and large, it hasn't changed a lot through the years. Most of these things stay relatively the same. You were talking about looking at payroll across the board as well this year. That having been said, to flag anything that's of concern that you want to discuss. I mean, I know Herb and Kit will want to discuss certain aspects of highway department, spending. And I know there are obvious issues with special projects and whatnot that never seem to happen. We need to really hammer with Kurt's input, what the highway needs for.
Well, we're having a very difficult time, just to be honest with you. I don't know how many of the last few meetings he's missed, but he hasn't been in that chair very often.
Well, I put
In the
out,
last
I
2 or
put
3
out two
months.
memos. I put out a memo a week and a half before Miss Davis did. But basically, we'd like all budget proposals in by December 5th. And all reports, handwritten reports, whatever. We'll see what happens with that. But certainly budget proposals I requested by the 22nd of November.
I said the select board report's gonna be fun this year.
I requested budget proposals by the 22nd of November, just so that you'd have a week or two to play with it before we really need to submit it for somebody to mock up in print form for the annual report. And we get into the holidays here pretty quick. Your next meeting is on the 22nd, Thanksgiving week, Tuesday night, and the planning commission budget's set, and it's already typed into the computer. You can look at that. But I haven't received anything from anybody else. And obviously the big one is, of the municipal side spending, obviously the big one is the highway. And hopefully Kirk and the crew will work on something proposed and have some time to sit down and walk you guys through what they anticipate needing for next year.
We
I know
didn't
that'll
see them
take a little
last
while.
year.
No, but without it, I know where the board is likely to go.
Yep.
And if the foreman isn't gonna lobby for funds, then can't complain about not having money to spend.
That's very true, but he better start taking his job a little bit more seriously, otherwise. it's-
Well, budget is a big part of it, and you guys can't be expected to anticipate what the highway department's needs are without input from the department itself.
Keep the salt and sand shed filled, that's all, and culverts stacked out back, we're good to go. All right, any other business that I'm not aware of that you need to add? Then the next regularly scheduled meeting is November 22nd at 6 PM here. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn
So moved.
Second.
at 7:10. We are adjourned, thank you.
Move around.